Come on, come on. It's the three of us. Can we? So this, it doesn't matter.
Evet.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the official opening of Tirana Connectivity Forum, which this year is taking place at Durrës Port Authority. It's hosted by Durrës Port Authority. Thank you very much, Mr. Vengu, for making it happen. Thank you for being here, and especially given the weather, but as the whole title or the rationale of this forum is resilience, we have been resilient as well. Initially, we planned the event to be done outside under a tent. It would have been spectacular by the seaside, like 200 meters from here. We couldn't do it, but we had a fallback option, the option B. So we are here today, and it is all very well. Your Excellency, Ambassador Hoffman, Your Excellency, Ambassador Urban, thank you very much for being with us today. We know that you have an excellent, very charged and very important agenda. It's very important. Your presence here is a sign of your commitment to the infrastructure in Albania, to the connectivity agenda, but also to the events that the civil society organize vis-a-vis of these developments. Tirana Connectivity Forum, it's in its 8th edition, and I will mention, I have in front of me one of the persons with whom we started, Mr. Frank Handke from Friedrich Ebert Stiftung 8 years ago. It's very good to have you back, Frank. And it has shown that it has become a key event in connectivity, not only in the Southeastern Europe, but also in Europe. As long as we know, we are the only yearly event that covers connectivity. But this year is very special, it's very specific. When we planned it, we built it up initially to fit with the new Trans-European Network Transport Regulation that for the first time included the Western Balkans European Transport Corridor in it. We were very happy about it. We started preparing, took in contact with DigiMove, with DigiNear, with WBIF, with our colleagues in mostly in waterborne and in rail, to see how we can contribute in preparing mature dossiers. I mean, we do not have any competency, so as to say, but we can help. We can bring our little thing for our authorities to go forward and prepare mature notes and mature links. We choose to have 2 corridors which are transversal and proper to the Balkans. The waterborne corridor, the Rhine-Danube, which was treated this morning, and also the rail corridor, or the corridor 8 that connects Adriatic with the Black Sea, which will be dealt with and treated this afternoon, right now. However, the war in Ukraine started, and we adapted by bringing into focus, beyond the notion of efficiency, also the notion of resilience and security. And all of a sudden, we realized that those corridors, I mean, those transversal corridors that go through the Balkans, are vital for the security of the southern flank of our continent. It was not important anymore to be a member state or not. We were all in the same boat, so to say, talking about maritime connectivity. In the bigger context, we also have the enlargement and the reforms that all our countries are undergoing right now. And here, when we talk about reforms, we talk about good governance. We have decided with a group of like-minded friends and colleagues all over the Balkans, but also in Brussels, in Berlin, in Vienna, in Paris, in Rome, to be a little bit more modest in our pretensions and non-governmental organizations. We have been talking a lot about politics, what our heads of state or heads of government should do, how they should treat cross-border issues, regional cooperation, all these kind of things which are very important. However, we have decided to be a little bit more realistic and trade it off with more impact, in the sense that from politics, we are being much more active now into policy making. Into politics, we need to have agency, we need to have entry points with our politicians, and we have to have measures and also resources to see and to follow it up. We do not have any of this. And we also miss some legitimacy. On the other side, on policy making, when we focus on sector policies, like in this case, in connectivity, we have all of the above as a start. We can have much more, but we need to show that we are professionally capable to be a factor and to be real contributors to bring the thing forward, not only by keeping our authorities accountable, but also into contributing, for this case, in maturing dossiers. So this is what we call contributing into the good governance of policies at national level, but also at the European level, but also in the good governance of the projects. In this case, we have chosen to work with the economic and investment plan, and this is why we will deal with tomorrow. There are some excellent studies and research done by non-governmental actors and academia on how the flagship projects, for example, in transport and energy, can be improved. The second point that we would like to mention is also the cohesion. Now enlargement has been enlarged in the sense that before we were 6, now we are 9. Is it the same enlargement? I don't know. It's maybe too early to say. But what the initial 6 would like, what we would like the initial 6 to do, is to continue with what we call the cohesion, right? We believe it is time to go beyond enlargement. Enlargement is foreign policy. We are not, and we have not been foreign policy of the European Union since a long time. Now we need to focus on cohesion. When I say cohesion, it's not only human rights or acquis, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. So, and this is something that we also want to treat and to deal with under the sign of connectivity. For us, our mantra is connectivity is the new enlargement, in the sense that if we have in Albania, for example, or in the Western Balkans, European standard or values institutions, I would prefer to live in Tirana or in Durrës than somewhere in, I don't know, Etterbeek or some other places in Western Europe. And the last point, it's the role of civil society, of NGOs. We have been underlying a lot the role and the place that we must have in this process. Very often it has been mentioned that there are difficulties in the reform because the process is captured, because the institutions are captured. So we need to reform to do the vettings, etc. Justice reform like it is happening in Albania, to go forward. We believe that to go forward, we need also to review with whom do we go forward. The Dutch have this strict, fair and engaged, which is perfect. And we want you guys to be engaged with us more in essence, more in details, with more resources, and with the follow-up, not on a project basis, but on a structural systemic base. And we are trying to prove to everybody that NGOs, when I say NGOs, it's not only civil society, it's also academia, it's also grassroots organizations, think tanks, etc., can do it. Finally, and not taking too much from your time, we have built Tirana Connectivity Forum 2022 in 3 blocks. The first block, it's about infrastructure. It is time that when we build infrastructure, we go beyond efficiency, we include also resilience, and we also include very important geopolitical factors. The panel this morning was extremely relevant in bringing up how geopolitics designs and influences infrastructure. This is the first thing. But we go a little bit forward in our reasoning by saying that we cannot be secure if our institutions are not secure. So, and there have been plenty of examples lately where our institutions have been under attack, and let's say sensitive information has been out. So we have to make sure that our institutions are well protected, perform professionally. And here we believe that one of the conditions for our institutions to be resilient and protected and secure is to be well governed. And to be well governed, we need to be there. Citizens need to be there. The third point, or the third block, is about the future. I mean, how the enlargement will be. We believe that at least for us, for the Western Balkan 6, we call it Southeast Europe 6, it needs to be about cohesion. It doesn't need to be enlargement anymore. I mean, you cannot enlarge into something that it's already in. We are all surrounded by EU member states. So EU has to, and we don't like the word absorb, because when you're absorbed, you use your identity. We do not want to use our identity. We want to keep our good things, and we want to be enriched by the European values and also give to Europe, but we have the best. So we talk about cohesion, bringing the best of us. And here, what's important but is relevant is the youth. Albania Tirana is the European Youth Capital 2022. There have been some fantastic and beautiful activities, initiatives, efforts, plenty of fantastic experiences that needs to be capitalized upon, promoted, shared with other people, I don't know, and in the sense that we promote this part of the world, this peninsula, and is a very nice place where it's worth it to be, to build a life, to study, to have a family, and to stay here. So this is one of the conditions that we want, one of the things that we want to do. So this will be the first day. Finally, it is very important that the fact that we have had here we have invited and there are present here some distinguished panelists. They are authorities in their field. I mean, they have executive power or they have advising power. And for us, it is very relevant because when people that have an agenda, which is like, I mean, the daily agenda is this size, and they find time to come to Tirana and to discuss about issues that normally sound like of Albania, but they impact all the territory, it means that we are on something. And it means that what is said here is very relevant and very important. And they have judged it useful to spend, to travel, and to be here and just to share it with us. We thank everybody that has taken his time and has been here with us in the panel, but also in the audience a lot. And finally, the conclusions or the main points, we will use them, we will build on them, we'll cherish them, and we will bring them to the summits of Prague, to the think tank summit in Prague, which will be in October, almost 2 weeks and a half from now, but also in Berlin, Western Balkan Summit in Berlin, which will be in the beginning of November. And we are very happy and very proud that here with us, we'll have representatives both from Czech Republic and also from Berlin. Without much ado, I am honored to welcome here Mr. Karel Urban, Ambassador of the Czech Republic in Tirana and holder of the presidency of the Council of the European Union for the second semester, for the keynote address. Thank you very much, Mr. Urban, for all your support for putting Tirana Connectivity Forum in the official calendar of the Czech presidency, for staying with us all the time and helping with us. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Dear Ambassador Hochman, dear Ardian, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to be here today with you. The Czech presidency continues with the tradition of having this forum in the EU official calendar, because connecting Europe in all the dimensions is the biggest task of our era. The topic, securely connected, can be seen and discussed from different angles. Since there are many experts here on the technical side of the connectivity, I prefer to discuss this phrase from the political point of view. We need to be connected, but the most important question is, how can such a connection work when fundamental freedoms and democratic principles are threatened? I strongly believe that liberal democracy is the main assumption which we can rely on. As the Russian aggression against Ukraine is just proving, principles of liberal democracy must be protected under every circumstances. Until recently, we might have taken our freedoms and democratic values for granted. But the war has just shown that common action is necessary to protect the values and principles Europe has been founded on. Now, more than ever, it is crucial to take a stance. The democratic countries must stay united and protect their values against any oppression. The community of partners unifying its foreign and security policy has already made it clear that it will vigorously oppose any attempt to disrupt the world order based on international law and treaties, in the spirit of the Latin proverb, pacta sunt servanda. Our presidential trio, France, Czechia, and Sweden, had to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic when preparing the priorities in 2021. As a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we had to change them from the ground up. Priorities of the Czech presidency of the European Council concentrate on energy, security, unity of democracies, resilience of our economies, resilience of our democratic institutions, and human rights. These priorities mostly coincide with the key topics of this conference. Given that EU enlargement is one of the highest priorities of Czech foreign policy, it cannot be missing from the priorities of the Czech presidency. I am personally pleased that Albania and North Macedonia started accession talks this July. Let me stress that all EU member states are keen on to help the countries of the Western Balkans on their way to the European Union, politically, financially, and by sharing expertise. We are all well aware that open dialogue is of paramount importance. The next opportunity to do so will be at the beginning of October at the Prague summit of the European Political Community. All European countries, with 2 exceptions, Russia and Belarus, will come to discuss today's most pressing issues in Prague. In today's complex world, any connection with reliable partners is more than welcome. The close connection of Western Europe with its southeastern wing is in mutual interest. It will bring more security, stability, and development of society, more understanding and chances to find agreement when solving the most complex questions. It will also bring more joy to the daily lives of all citizens. I therefore appreciate the organization of the conference and wish you nothing but success. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Hoffman, you are in Albania since some weeks now, but you know the region very well. And I wanted also to say that we appreciate very, very much that one of your first public engagements is with representatives of non-governmental organizations, and also to say that, of course, you are the ambassador of the European Union in Albania, but you are also our ambassador to the European Union. The floor is yours.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here in Durrës, only 7 weeks after my arrival, and first time I get to see the beach. Sorry for the rain, but it's good. We need the rain here in the region, so we should applaud this. The 300 days of sunshine on other days. It's of course an enormous pleasure to be here and to address this austere forum, because it's key, and it's been mentioned before, not only for the regional economic integration, but also for the economic recovery, security, and the resilience in the whole region. Through the Berlin process, which as a German, I'm proud of the name, the EU and the Western Balkans have established a very ambitious connectivity agenda to improve transport and energy links in the region, and also link it up with the European Union. Let's just imagine, since 2015, EU grants have already generated close to 4 billion euros in investments in transport and energy, giving concrete support to infrastructure projects that directly benefit the citizens in the region. With the adoption of the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans back in 2020 and the accompanying green agenda for the region, we have leveled up our ambition. Under this plan, 9 billion euro of funding are available over the next 7 years, and we estimate that this will lead up to a further 20 billion euros of investment. Connectivity, and in particular sustainable transport and clean energy, are very important priorities of exactly that ERP. Our overall objective in this plan is to close the socio-economic gap between the Western Balkans and the EU. One of our main focuses is to complete the core network. The corridors under the Trans-European Transport Network, TEN-T, as you know, and these are connecting and linking capitals, main economic centers, and major ports in the region. It is also about energy connectivity as another key focus of this economic and investment plan. The objective is to diversify energy sources in the Western Balkans, boosting renewable energy, energy efficiency, as well as electricity and gas interconnections in the region. This cooperation becomes all the more relevant with the energy crisis we are all facing in the context of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. By strengthening connectivity and accelerating the transition towards greener, more digital economies, we will reduce dependencies from Russian fossil fuels. To demonstrate the concrete impact of the EU's investment in connectivity, let me just give you the examples here for Albania. We're bringing back rail to Albania. The Tirana-Durrës Railway will be completely rehabilitated, including a completely new connection to Tirana Airport. Works are just starting now. We are reconnecting Albania to the European network. The design for the reconstruction of the railway between Albania and Montenegro is completed, and works are expected to start soon. The design studies for rehabilitating the railway section between Durrës and the border to North Macedonia are actually advancing. And we continue our bold investments to upgrade Albania's road network. And trust me, I've been a victim of the bad roads already. Improving connections to the rest of Europe. Works on the Tirana bypass are expected to start soon. Design studies for the Adriatic Ionian Highway section between the border of Montenegro and Lesja are in progress. This will complete already completed EU major investments in road infrastructure in Albania, such as Vlora and Rogozina bypasses, many kilometers of secondary rural roads, which have provided better access to markets, essential services such as health centers and schools, thanks to reduced travel time, but also to reduced travel costs. However, we should also be very, very clear that infrastructure projects are not sufficient just in themselves. They can be a start to boost region's economic and social development. There are three important conditions that need to be there to gain the full benefits of these kinds of investments. First of all, countries need to make progress on the common regional market based on EU rules, norms, and the full freedoms of the EU single market. This means that countries need to further integrate their markets, remove barriers to trade, develop a transport regulatory framework in line with EU law, build investor confidence. The goal should be the inclusive regional economic integration of the Western Balkans. The green and blue lanes are a great example of how regional economic cooperation can benefit the region. Green lanes were first put in place during the COVID pandemic to keep medicines and goods flowing between the Western Balkans countries. Last July, first green lane border crossing between the EU and the Western Balkans was opened in Greece, between Greece and North Macedonia. Earlier this month, the first blue lanes were established to facilitate sea traffic between Albania, Montenegro, and Italy. This is exactly the way I mean. Secondly, it will be essential that our investments are future-proof and therefore contribute to green transition. Taking the example of transport, this means deploying sustainable and smart mobility solutions, intelligent transport systems, electric vehicle charging stations, etc., etc., etc. Thirdly, it is crucial that these major investments, as well as efforts to build a regional economic market, are locally owned and implemented in consultation with local communities. The EU's investment in the region must go hand in hand with efforts to build more accountable institutions, transparent procurement processes, and an overall strengthening of rule of law in the whole region. This is what the EU integration agenda of the region is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, the EU will continue its strategic investments in the Western Balkans region, since the future of your region is in the European Union, and this is not just a slogan. Therefore, I wish you all successful discussions here, because your recommendations are also leading to what can be done better and how we can better integrate this whole region. Thank you very much.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your words, and I just picked some concepts, a couple of seconds. The first one is the underlying the Berlin process. We love it. Tirana Connectivity Forum was initially called Berlin Process Forum. But I liked a lot the fact that when you spoke about rail and road infrastructure, not here in the Balkans, you mentioned in the same phrase, health centers and schools. This is very relevant for us, very relevant for citizens. We appreciate very much the fact that you called infrastructure as only a booster, and also the impact and the importance that you put to the common regional market, which is the right rail, so to say, to be in line with the EU law, norms and standards. The green transition, of course, but I will finish with the locally owned and implementing together with local communities. And you mentioned procurement. We will go a little bit further tomorrow. We also want to be part of the project identification. We want to say that why we like rail and not road, or why a school and not a road, for example. But thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for your time. We are well ahead of our time, so either we can take a 5 minutes break right now, as you wish, or we can move directly to the first panel, which will start with the rail connectivity in Southeast Europe, because here we will talk with rail dimension of Montenegro, of Albania, of North Macedonia, as well as we have the opportunity and the honor to have an invitee from Bulgaria, Mr. Dimitar Savov. So all moderated by Mr. Dejan Lasica, which is the rail coordinator and transport community permanent secretariat. The goal of the panel would be to discuss about the main rail infrastructure developments in the east-west axis. Let's not forget that the Corridor 8 is the only corridor that connects Adriatic Sea and the Black Sea, and goes through NATO member countries and assures very important and vital connection. So do we vote for a break, or do we continue, or just abuse of we continue? Dejan is making me sign that we continue. So please, I kindly invite the panelists to take their places, and we will have more time for discussions.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I have a great pleasure and honor to open the panel one, which is devoted to the connection between West and East, or so-called connection via Corridor 8. As Ardian mentioned, I'm coming from the Transport Community Secretariat. My name is Dejan Lasica. And let me just to thanks to Adrian and other persons who organized this forum for the kind invitation and privilege to moderate this session. Today with us, we will have 4 experts from the region. And I will say just a short introduction. From my left side, the first is General Director of the Montenegro Infrastructure Manager, Ms. Marina Bošković. Then we have General Director of the Albanian Railway, Mr. Liko. Then we have Hari Lokvanec, who is Director of the Infrastructure Manager from the North Macedonia. And finally, we have Mr. Savov, Director of the National Directorate for the Policy from Bulgaria. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, this panel will have the main focus on a connection between East and West axis, but focus on the compliance with the TNT criteria and requirements. So, without further delay, I would start. This map will just help us as a background. So, as we are talking about the TNT revision, as we are talking about TNT standards, I would start with the question for the Ms. Bošković regarding the Route 4 in Montenegro, regarding their plan. So, it is more than visible that Montenegro has been achieved significant progress in some TNT indicators like track gauge, axle load, and electrification. But my question is, what's happened with ERTMS? For the wider audience, it is the European Railway Traffic Management System. So we cannot recognize it within a plan. Taking account that Route 4 is also one of the EIP projects supported by the EU, we hope that ERTMS also will be planned. Could you give some input regarding the situation in Montenegro as well as ERTMS?
First of all, I want to greet you all and express my gratitude for the hospitality and organization of the conference. I will try briefly to state my position regarding all of this question you ask. Montenegro has established all necessary institution regarding those questions, but I have to admit that railway infrastructure has so far numerous objections to the work of a regulatory body and in terms of setting priorities and supporting initiative from RIAMS. You asked something on those, you asked to talk about ERTMS. At this moment in Montenegro Railways is the technical interoperability. We have only optical fiber, and optical fiber has been installed along the Belgrade corridors part of the Montenegro, and also in the railway station of Podgorica, ESTS level 1. But RIOM prepared grant application forms and explained way of implementation of this project. And about a month ago, we applied to the WBIF to provide support for the project of replacing the signaling interlocking system on the railway line Bar and the border with Serbia. And we hope for a positive outcome. And I think so that is a great step ahead. Next, we are convinced that the future it is necessary to create preconditions for inclusion to TNT network of all distance, Albania border Podgorica, Nikšić, and further toward Bosnia and Herzegovina. National Commission adopted a unique list of priority infrastructure projects, with 2 railway projects as follow: the construction and electrification of railway Podgorica-Tuzi border with Albania, roads 2, and as I say, this ERTMS project.
Thank you, Marina. I will back in second round on the potential TNT revision. Okay. So, because I wanted I want to show on a map what is actually Montenegro proposal. But before that, let me to continue with the first round. So, Mr. Sao, actually, you are coming from the EU member state, and could you share with us your standpoint regarding the Corridor 8, your plans, and what could be your role, let's say, in upgrading of the Corridor 8 through the Albania and Macedonia from comprehensive to core?
Thank you, Chairman. And first of all, I would like to express my satisfaction of being able to take part in this symposium to exchange views on the development of the East-West Railway network between the Western Balkans and Bulgaria and the European Union. Speaking about the situation of Corridor 8 on Bulgarian territory, we have the road connection is well developed, and on the rail corridor we have a lot of projects which are underway. We have Sofia-Plovdiv, this line which is developed in different sections. Also Plovdiv to the ports of Varna and Burgas. And all these projects have different deadlines, but the overall deadline for the modernization of the corridor is 2030. We have a lot of efforts together with the countries on the corridor, the former Corridor 8, North Macedonia and Albania. We have a lot of political declarations, a lot of memoranda signed. Probably this is one of the corridors with most declarations on every political level, from presidents, prime ministers, financial ministers, transport ministers. But still we have a lot to do on the actual construction of the corridor. This revision of the TEN-T network, which started in the end of last year and is going on, presented a corridor which is, you see on the map, this one is the Western Balkans corridor, which is connecting Sofia with Belgrade and then to Turkey. And also we would very much like to include in this corridor the former Corridor 8, and we made a lot of efforts. We had meetings with the three ministers from Bulgaria, North Macedonia and Albania, and we use every opportunity to present the importance of this link, both political and economical. And we have developed a non-paper for the importance of this corridor, which we distributed to every European Union country. We have support of many countries, and at the moment we are having different routes of negotiations on the network of our country, and the main topic which we have underlined, this is the inclusion of the line from Tirana to Durrës in the core network, and the whole corridor which is from Durrës, Tirana, Skopje, Sofia, to be a priority corridor in the Western Balkans. The new name is European Transport Corridors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savo. I see that actually all Western Balkan will have your support in this process, and thank you for that. So, Mr. Oklenec, you are coming from North Macedonia. So, as North Macedonia has two TEN-T corridors actually, and there are a lot of priorities on your railway network, but could you clarify what is currently in focus with special clarification for the TEN-T criteria like electrification, ERTMS, etc., etc.?
Thank you, Mr. Losica. Distinguished representatives of European Union, of NGOs, dear colleagues, dear friends. I would like to express gratitude for the invitation and opportunity to participate at this forum. Before I start, once again, I would like to emphasize the importance of railway infrastructure and transport by rail, because this is the fastest, the most inexpensive, and the shortest way of connectivity, by which you can transport around 1,500 tons of cargo at once, at the same time taking care of the environment and fulfilling the EU Green Agenda. Therefore, I strongly believe that our focus should be dedicated to improving the railway infrastructure on the Western Balkans in the order to increase the inter-exchange of goods with Albania, Bulgaria, Greece, Serbia, and Kosovo, and further with EU member states, as well as to improve the mobility and communication of all citizens. Anyway, we have put the main focus on the projects for construction of new railway lines and reconstruction of existing. Now I can proudly announce that we complete successfully the tendering procedures and signed the works contracts with the selected contractors in the June this year. It is a Strabag for section 1. This is that blue part towards Bulgaria at the map. Second is there. The second phase is from Beljakovce to Kriva Palanka, and it will construct by company Julermak from Turkey. And the third one, section from Kriva Palanka to border with Bulgaria. The preparation of the tender dossier is ongoing, expecting to launch this tender for works not later than first quarter of next year. For this forthcoming contract, I can state that it is the most challenging because on 24 kilometers length, we have projecting 24 tunnels and 51 bridges, which is absolutely challenging from all sides. For this project, with estimated cost of around 400,000 euros, we have won IPA grant few years ago with amount of 61 million euros. And in this moment, before few months, we won from WBIF, proudly say 155 million euros for this third phase, which together means 216 million euros granted money for the project with estimated cost of 400 million euros, which means more than 50% granted money for third phase of this project. I would like to add that at 19th of next month, October, in Beljakovce, the official ceremony for the commencement date for starting works of these first two phases will be. So this is one open invitation for all of you to be there and to be our guest, to be guests of Macedonian railway infrastructure. It means that after 30 months, 65 kilometers of railway towards Republic of Bulgaria will be completed. I want to mention the western, this is about the eastern part of Corridor 8 through North Macedonia. The western part It is toward Republic of Albania with length of 63 kilometers. And we submitted a WBIF application for technical assistance in order to update the project documentation for the section Kičevo-Struga as per IFI's and TSI's requirements, after which, with the support of IFI's, a tender for works will follow. As for the remaining part from Struga to border with Republic of Albania, we are organizing meetings with my friend and with colleagues from Albanian Railways to agree for the next steps. Dear friends, about importance of Corridor 8. What we construct in Corridor 8, it's not just a corridor, it's not just the rails, it is connection between, as my friend Adrian mentioned, between Adriatic and Black Sea, but not Adriatic, it is Mediterranean Sea. Connection between Mediterranean Sea area and Black Sea area means that we in this moment construct a continental Bosphorus in Europe. All we know what means Bosphorus for the Europe. So thank you about your support. I expect a further support from your side because this is, as my friend Adrian mentioned, this is a unique corridor which connects three NATO countries. With Albanian and Macedonian railways, we will complete the 3 Seas initiative, very big Europe initiative, which include 12 European countries. Just Albania and North Macedonia need to be a part of that initiative. And Corridor 8, because 3 Seas initiative connecting 3 Seas, Baltic, Adriatic, and Black Sea. As Mr. Lasica mentioned, Skopje, capital of my country, it's a center of cross between Corridor 8 and Corridor 10. Corridor 10, which connect agent ports in Greece, Thessalonica and Athens with Central Europe. So about this corridor, some tracks renewal works need to take place in order to increase the safety and avoid slow areas and delays in arrival. To conclude, at the end, all of new investments and renewals are done in accordance with TEN-T requirements, EN standards, and TSIs in order to have a railway network that is harmonized with EU. When talking about times for completion of the above projects, jointly with our colleagues from Bulgaria, we expect to complete the project of Eastern Wing towards Bulgaria and connection with Sofia at the end of 2027. And our expectation is that the Western Wing and connection with Republic of Albania and Durrës, it means Durrës and Bari in Italy, we will complete this project till the end of this decade. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Just let me to underline that it is very ambitious plan for the North Macedonia, as well as you given the task also to Albania and to Bulgaria. But I do believe that you really reached this goal to finish the whole corridor by the 2030. So what is really hard task. However, the last speaker in the first round is director of the Albanian Railway, Mr. Liko. Actually, Albania has a significant plan for the recovering of the almost whole network. Almost all network is covered or under construction or covered with some kind of the plan. So in terms of the deadline, what Harry mentioned, 2030, how you assess possibility to finish the major part of the network? I mean, ongoing project as well as mature projects, what you already done regarding the design.
So thank you, Mr. Lasica. Good afternoon, everyone. I take the opportunity to express my gratitude for being part of this panel. So as you mentioned, the railway sector in Albania has become a priority of the Albanian government. So I would like to take my opportunity to thank the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy and also the government for this part. So Albania has put together a significant plan for renewing the whole existing network. We have already started with the Tirana-Durrës, is the rehabilitation of the existing line, and the new construction to the Rinas International Airport. So that's the first project that is already ongoing. This is financed by EBRD, 39 kilometers in length, and we plan to extend this one to the city center at a later stage. The second one in pipeline is Vorhani-Hotit, 120 kilometer, which is the one shown with the red line in the map. It's fully mature and for which we have the full detailed design, and it's going to be co-financed by EBRD and TAB. And right now we are working on revising the budget cost to take into consideration the adjustment of the latest inflation and also for the potential inclusion of the electrification cost for such project. Then we have Corridor 8, with the first part being Durrës-Rogozhin, 34 kilometers long, for which we do have the detailed design and it's ready for implementation and financing. And then we proceed with the second part of this corridor, with Rogozhin-Pogradec, 120 kilometer in line, for which we are in procurement process right now with a grant managed by EIB for the preliminary design of such segment. And the last but not the least, and it's my total pleasure to announce this one, it's the link between Kosovo and Albania. It's the link that is missing in the map that it's in front of you. So the feasibility study and the conceptual design of such connection is going to be financed by both state budgets in a total of 1.98 million euros, and it's going to be launched for procurement pretty soon. So this segment is going to connect port of Durrës to the dry port of Pristina and will be a direct connection to Route 10 in Kosovo. So in other words, we have our whole network, existing network, covered by rehabilitation projects, and we also adding new segments into the railway map. So the first one is the one that I just mentioned, the connection between Kosovo and Albania. And then we have the international railway link to the port, to the international airport of Rinas. We have the industrial branch that, thanks to Durrës Port for their collaboration, it's going to connect the new Tirana-Durrës line via Suk station to the new port in Porto Romano. And the last is a missing link in Corridor 8 that connects Lin to cross-border with Macedonia, which is 2.7 kilometer in line. So getting back at Corridor 8. Corridor 8 in Albanian territory was classified as comprehensive TEN-T network in 2015 and didn't make it to the core network back in 2015 after a World Bank REBIS study. So the main reasons for that one were the missing links, the one in North Macedonia between Kicevo and Ohrid, and the one from Lin to the cross-border, the one that I just mentioned that is just 2.7 kilometers long. Another reason was the lack of mature projects and also the lack of coordination between the three countries where the Corridor 8 route goes by. Anyway, today we have a different picture. So we have fully mature projects, and also those missing links, we have detailed design that are ready for implementation. And based on feasibility studies financed by WBIF for Durrës, Rogozhin, Pogradec, the derived economical indicators are completely acceptable by the requirements of TEN-T and the European Union. So apart from that, we have a memorandum signed between infrastructure ministers of Albania, North Macedonia, and Bulgaria last year in October for cooperation among these three countries in development of this corridor. So this shows the highest level of commitment and collaboration between these three countries. And as the colleagues mentioned before, apart from trade and economical significance of this corridor in itself bears a unique geopolitical value. It does not only connect the Black Sea to the Adriatic Sea, taking into consideration I'm going to say the hottest topic of the moment, the Russian aggression in Ukraine. This corridor brings together several NATO member countries. So its importance, it's outstanding. Based on all that I mentioned above, we strongly believe that the criteria for such corridor fulfills the standard of TEN-T, and we hope that it gets included in the next revision of the TEN-T maps. And coming back to the plan of Albania completing all these segments by 2023 as the deadline from the European Union, and I do take the opportunity to also thank our partners and the international donors that are helping us in implementing the green agenda and also the smart and sustainable mobility strategy. The deadline for Tirana-Durrës is March 2024 by now. So if we include also the extension to the city center, we add on top, I'm just putting figures, another year. So by 2025, we'll have a fully operational Tirana-Durrës-Rinas line. And as I said, we are looking into the budget cost for Vor-Hani-Hotit, and our plan together with EBRD and EAB is to have both agreements finalized by end of this year. So we start with procurement, let's say first quarter or second quarter of the next year. And the implementation for this project is going to be another 3 years. So by 2027, we have also Vor-Hani-Hotit completely and fully operational. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liko. Actually, again, a very ambitious plan. Let me to ask you just regarding the TEN-T compliance. I know that in this phase of the project, electrification is not predicted, but I heard also that you have it in mind for the second phase or something like that. So is it true?
Yes, that is correct. So this project started in parts, I'm gonna say. So when it first started, we had only the infrastructure line. I'm sorry, and we are missing the station buildings and also the electrification. So at this moment, we're negotiating with EBRD for the station buildings. We have a detailed design for such buildings. We have a budget cost, and we have issued an official request to EBRD for financing the station buildings. So this procedure is going to be finalized, let's say, in a couple of weeks. And the next step is the electrifications. We had a meeting again with EBRD and their procurement specialists last week and discussed on the approach how the Albanian Railways will treat this project in terms of electrifications. And we're going to put another official request for additional funding for the electrification, since again, we do have the preliminary design and also the budget cost for such part of the project.
Thank you again. Actually, before the next round of questions, I will give just a short information regarding the current compliance. I mean, I will not pass in detail with all TNT criteria, but when we mention electrification, what is the one of them, just to mention that actually 73%, almost 74% of the core network is covered by the electrification and 55% of the comprehensive. So it means that in 2030, this target should be achieved. I mean, in terms of the compliance with the electrification. Same things, but contrary, we have with ERTMS, what we mentioned, that currently now just one small part of the 80 kilometers in Serbia, or 2.71% is covered with ERTMS, but we have forecast that in 2030, almost 30% of the network, I think I presented here. Yes, for instance, look the forecast for the RTMS. It means that in 2027, 24% of the network will be covered with the ERTMS in operation, and 42% will be in plan. So it is the significant, let's say, progress. However, it is under condition that we should work very seriously on all ongoing projects. I did not list here, but we have 3 ongoing projects in North Macedonia. I mean, 3 sections. We have 2 in Albania, 2 in Montenegro, 2 in Serbia, and 1 in Bosnia, and 1 in Kosovo, Route 10. So all these 10 infrastructure projects, if we succeeded without delay, without further cost, this map will be significantly changed. This is the current picture of the infrastructure conditions. Red line means poor or very poor. Green line means good or very good, and yellow is in the middle. So black. No, black is. Thank you for the question. The black is missing link or under construction. So you can see actually this light pointer. Eastern part of the corridor 8, it is under construction. Then missing link between Kičevo and Elbasan, because from Elbasan toward Lin is out of operation. Also toward Korča is also out of operation, and Tirana Dures is under construction.
Sorry, just abusing. I thought that the red and black were the national colors of Albania, because it's only red and black.
Okay, and now I will pass to the second round of the questions for speakers, and one general question for all of you. Actually, we were speaking a lot about the investments, about the projects, and it is something what is very visible. And I like that all decision makers like the projects to cut the ribbon, to be visible, etc., etc. But something is also important, what we really pushing to do it is the reforms and the transposition of the EU legislation. So how you assess the impact of the EU rail legislation in implementation of the projects? I will tell you that more than 3 billion euros invested in Western Balkans in last 15 years. But we still have same average speed. It is below 60 kilometers per hour. So it means that 3 billion euros, I would not say that it was useless, but definitely still we cannot offer better quality of service regarding the infrastructure conditions as well as operation. So it is the general question, but now, and you can give your feedback, but a very concrete question for the Montenegro, as I mentioned. I think Montenegro in this process of the revision proposed something. So Marina, could you explain what is the intention and what Montenegro will get, and not just Montenegro, what region will get?
The need of comprehensive and competitive integration of European region has been designed as special objective in the Euro transport policy in the period to 2050, bearing in mind the disproportion in development of individual lines on trans-European network. crucial state priority of Montenegro at this moment is completion of EU integration that under the intense phase of the negotiation process. Likewise, priority will be the support to common projects and investment in infrastructure with the surrounding countries, West Balkan countries, which would pave the way to the common utilization of potential, for example, future cargo TNT corridors of the railway transport. In that goal, it is necessary to develop the cooperation network for the purposes of spreading the policy of transport and infrastructure area to the closest neighbors in order to set up a better infrastructure connectivity and closer integration of market, including the preparation of the plan for cargo corridors and mobility continuity. Further reconstruction of railway between Bar and border with Serbia through European regional access and other funds, and applying for the extension of regional transport network for the railway Podgorica-Nikšić, Podgorica-Albania border.
Let me to show you.
Okay.
Actually, you can recognize Podgorica. Now you can imagine line from Podgorica toward Bosnian border.
Yes.
And finished in Čapljina on corridor 5C.
Yes, Nikšić, Trebinje, Čapljina.
This green line. So the new alignment would be from this point towards Podgorica. So
we have a very big plan for reconstruction, all that lines, and we have no problems with reconstruction. As we said on all those before convention, we have problem with maintenance. That what is reconstructed, and that is the big problem, and that's why I think so the speed on that railway infrastructure is not adequate at all. And I think so that the government of our countries need to give more money for maintenance, railway infrastructure, and that is the way to keep the speed and the line safe for future transport.
Thank you, Marina. You raised a really important issue. We all know that the maintenance is something what is the crucial. I will share with the audience that based on latest study made by the Connecta in 2018, the rail experts from the European Commission, engaged from the European Commission, of course, calculated that 50,000 euros per year per kilometer is amount what is the sufficient for the sustainability, let's say, of the project in terms of the keeping the design speed on the same level. Our assessment of the region is that in the region we have from 6 towards 17,000 per kilometers as maximum. I will not tell you in which regional partners we have minimum or maximum, but definitely in best scenario it is just 1/3 of the necessary amount. So the maintenance is something what is the really most important issue, and even these new investment projects will be useless if we do not have budget for the maintenance. Thank you for raising this question. Mr. Sao, as you are coming from the EU member state, what you could recommend to the Western Balkan countries as let's say guidelines on what could be the main challenge in development of the railway infrastructure? What should be the role of the government? How it is going in Bulgaria?
Because of the geographical situation in Bulgaria, we have a lot of priority corridors, and thus this presents an opportunity because you can find easier access to European financing for these corridors. It's also a very big challenge because you have to modernize a lot of routes, and it's very difficult with the deadlines of 2030 for the core network and 2050 for the comprehensive network. I think the governments and the ministries for transport and regional development, the most important thing is to have clear priorities, to prioritize their projects very clearly and to concentrate their financing for the core network, and then after that to the access to the network. Another thing is the balanced regional development. We have till now developed a lot of projects in the southern part of Bulgaria. Now we have to, for the balance, we have to develop projects in the northern part and also in the north-south direction, because up to now we are developing east-west and the southern part of Bulgaria. For the parameters and the conditions of the network, we are following closely the guidelines of the European Union about the network, and we are now in negotiations to have a little bit to decrease the very ambitious goals which the European Union have set, and we are trying to prevent projects which have already been developed to be developed for bigger standards. So it's a very complicated procedure, but I think first thing is to have a priority, to have a clear strategy developed in the years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Sao. Actually, you just raised the important issue beyond the maintenance. I think also the right policy and prioritization should be also clear, because if we start with more ambitious projects, it is never-ending story. So it really should be focused on core network and completion by the 2030. Harry, actually, you are first chair of the network of the infrastructure managers. I will just remind the audience that the previous rail summit, which was held in Belgrade last year, was historical because the 6 regional partners signed the MOU about the establishing of the network, and we did 2 meetings under the your chairmanship. So what you can recommend to the all infrastructure manager as a guidelines for the future, and what could be the benefit of the network? I will tell you that we already identified what is the priority, but I will give floor to share with us.
Thank you, Mr. Lasica. I'm honored, and I would like to you, especially to you, like a representative of transport community, to thank you that you confided in me to the first chair of a network of infrastructure managers in the Western Balkans. On behalf of my country in general and on Macedonian Railways in particular, as a managers of railway infrastructure, I'm very confident with you about maintaining the railways. So as a managers of railway infrastructure, our main objective is to ensure safety and security in the rail traffic. That can be achieved via continuous maintenance and improvement of the infrastructure. Here I would also like to mention the Vienna Declaration for the digitalization in the railway sector, which was signed by Community of European Railways and European Railway CEOs at the Rail CEO Summit in Vienna this July. In that context of the digitalization, I consider that we should go a few steps back, not further, back, because the digitalization is useful and advanced for us in the Western Balkans, but the difficulties and bottlenecks we are facing every day are at a basic level. Thus, that is never-ending story, which requires a lot of resources, both human and financial. Besides the government support, the pre-accession funds are the most important for this purpose, which are intended for reconstruction, renewal of the railway sections, upgrade of the level crossings, and other equipments and facilities. If you ask me what the amount of required finances or how many grants should be provided, I would simply answer a lot, taking in consideration the poor conditions of the railway infrastructure in the whole region. For that exact reason, I would like to propose here to establish an EU fund similar like IPART. It's an IPA fund for rural development. Maybe, and the name can be the same because it's a railway development. IPART, some other form of IPART, because in the same time with European money of European taxpayers, we will engage European companies for machinery or spare parts like sleepers and rails. And third, for developing the railways in Europe, especially in Western Balkan. This is not a win. This is not a win-win. This is a triple win situation because we have, I will repeat, European money of European taxpayers. We will engage European companies for machinery and for spare parts like sleepers and rails, and that equipment will be used in Western Balkans, in this region, for maintaining the railways that we have in this moment, which is absolutely very important for safety and security of our passengers. The second issue is employers. I should also know the employers, because issue in Macedonian case is actually we are trying to reach the EU average of 2 employers per kilometer of railway and to increase our current average number of 1.41 employees per kilometer of railway in the next period. Also, due to the huge rate of retirement in the next years, we have to think of a way how to attract our young people to join the railway infrastructure managers. Because I truly believe that the future is in railways, but also to transfer the knowledge and know-how of the senior employers to the new ones. For that exact reason, I believe that conclusion from the conference that we have in Ohrid few months ago related to establishment of Railway Excellence Center should be our priority and should be fully implemented in the shortest time. And in the end, I would like to inform you that at the last few months, we have a very big communication with Kosovo's railway infrastructure company, and we submit a project for cross-border cooperation between our two countries. Last year, we had held a few meetings with Bulgarian railway company, national company, for meetings for coordination, connecting with Corridor 8 and connecting tunnel that we have border tunnel between our two countries. Thank you, Mr. Lasic.
Thank you, Harry, for the comprehensive answer, and it's a really great pleasure to hear that there is regional cooperation in place. Just go ahead and share your experience. I know that Mr. Liko is in hurry. Just quick question. In Albania, you have reforms ongoing, you have investment ongoing, and you are in the middle, unfortunately. So how you keep the balance between two things? What is the priority? What do you think?
That's true. So we do have both actually, but as I said, with the new action plan that the Albania has put has put together for recovering the railway sector. We are considering only the rehabilitation projects that are coming through international donors or private investors, I'm gonna say. So to get back at Corridor 8 issue. So we have the first segment, Durrës-Rogojina, 35 kilometers, which is fully mature with a detailed design and ready to be implemented. And we have had a lot of private operators that have been approached to invest into that segment. But since we are looking into the big picture, looking at the whole corridor as one segment, we haven't gone for a yes for that first segment. So we want to have the full line, because to us, it doesn't make sense if we still have those black segments in the map. Because if we don't get from the port of Durrës to the Black Sea, then the whole point of the Corridor 8 is pointless. So for private partners, we are looking more into the options of operation and maintenance, which means that it's going to be the second stage after we have the lines rehabilitated. Then we are looking into possible operators. So we still don't have any decision on this one, if the operation is going to be state-based or is going to go to a private operator for operation first of Tirana-Durrës Arenas line, and then to the others that will get functions. But we are putting this as an option on the market, for all these operators that want to get involved in the Albanian railway sector.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Liko. So I know that you have important meetings, so thank you for
So I have to excuse myself for this inconvenience, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we can continue with the panel. Actually, now is, let's say, turn for the discussion with audience. Any questions are welcome. Do not hesitate to ask the speakers or even me if you consider that is relevant. So who will break the ice? Please.
Thanks. Adrian mentioned that we will talk about the future only on Wednesday, but you mentioned the future for the youth somehow when you said we have to attract the young people to be part of the whole story. And this is my question. Could it be possible to make a direct or mandatory link to all the works which were done, directly to combine it with vocational training for the relevant jobs, also for the maintenance? Because you cannot say we train the people when we have the train. You have to train the people now, and when the train is there, that they are experts. So the idea directly to combine planning and starting the works with vocational training on different levels, up to studies, dual studies, for example. This would be, let's say, this would give sustainability for the whole story, because this is, and this was mentioned by all of you, that the maintenance is the weakest point in the Balkans. Yeah, we have a lot of investment, but many things are lost because the maintenance is so bad.
Thank you for the question. Harry, I think the question for you.
Thank you. Thank you for question. Thank you that you mentioned maintenance. Thank you that you mentioned this form of excellence center that at the last meeting that we held in Ohrid through the transport community for network of railway infrastructure managers, we talk about that. Our idea is to create that center now in this moment for many different levels, for teachers from all Balkans countries, 6 countries, to engage them and to attract young people to reach that knowledge and skills for the future, because it's a chicken egg story. When we need to start with these proceedings, or this is real time now in this moment, because if we wait to construct all railways through the Balkans, then we'll be late. If we attract some young people to become part of our team and to start to work here, and that process of sharing, of exchange, experience and knowledge from experienced employers in the companies in this moment is very important, because in the other case, we will create a very deep gap in the companies, and it will be an absolutely very, very big problem for whole process, not just for our companies, because it is connecting at the highest level with security of the passengers, which is absolutely most important thing.
Only one sentence, one proposal. It could be a point for the tenders. Yeah, that you directly mention that companies are preferred, which directly include the trainings. This might be very helpful and would give youngsters the security to believe in the future. Yeah. Sorry for the second.
No. Thank you about this. Believe me, it is a connecting issue. Why? Connecting issue because of machinery that we didn't have in this moment, because of money for spare parts, especially for sleepers and rails. And what's happened with machinery? You can attract no younger person who want to deal with machinery old, few tens, 30, 40 years old machinery. So we will attract them with new machinery, because it's like a space shuttle. It looks like space shuttle in this moment. And this is challenging for them, because it is not some bad work that they need to be engaged for, but it is a very challenging work, which they need to know new technology, which they will feel very, very proudly. We need to put at higher level our companies and the work in that companies. That's my reason.
Something. I think so. If our countries make a big effort to give a higher salary for our very, very hard workers, our very complex work of our engineers, I think so that part of the problem will be solved. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you, Marina. Also, thank you for the question. Another question? Yeah, lady from North Macedonia. Anna, I think, if I remember well.
Thank you. Anna Grastinovska, is Timo from North Macedonia. I'm originally from a city called Bitola, which is, if you consider the map, at the left lower end of the green line, which means that we have good or very good rail infrastructure. I would like to start by raising an example. Recently, with funds from IPA 1, the railway from my hometown to the Greek border was reconstructed. If I'm not wrong, it was around 70 million euros. Unfortunately, from 2019, when the reconstruction was finished until present day, there are no trains. There has not been one single, train passing through. And I'm very happy to see that there are reflections at the policy level, what needs to be changed, because obviously we have good or very good infrastructure, as you can see on the picture. But then there is still this problem of connectivity. And we talked about maintenance, we talked about the employees or the labor behind the rail operations, etc. And I would like to add a couple of more layers to this policy debate. How do we ensure this policy coordination, especially across the borders? Because it is not only that branch, but also the other branch towards Greece. We have on and off trains, especially when it comes to passenger transport. And how do we return to the rail transport the attractiveness? Because we are a part of a region where rail transport was neglected for several decades. And I assume that that is one part of the reason why rail transport, especially for passengers, is not attractive. And it is not, I think, only the case of the Western Balkans. We talked during the break in Germany. They had this campaign during the summer with €9 tickets to somehow encourage people to use more the railway. What are we going to do in the Western Balkans? Is there some master plan how to return the attractiveness to the rail transport, especially when it comes to passengers? Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So I will abuse the position of moderator to give you one general answer, actually, not just related to the Bitola, Greece. Actually, you're right, but let me go back 3 years ago, before Corona break. We had a lot of international connections between Western Balkans and neighboring EU countries. Unfortunately, today we have just one between Podgorica and Belgrade. And we were digging to discover the real reason why it is. And I think we found. So actually the current PSO policy, actually each railway undertaking in passenger transport got the PSO public service obligation contract with government. In other words, it is the money for them or subsidies. From the return, they should take care about the timetable in cooperation with infrastructure managers, etc., etc. Now, unfortunately, the certain number of trains governments excluded from this contract, so this money is not enough to cover the basic cost. When I said basic cost, it means just to pay to Hari, for instance, track access charge, or to Marina. So, I mean, railway undertaking has to pay the track access charge. Also, they has to pay electricity or gasoline or the salary for the staff, etc., etc. At the end of the day, they will not be on a zero. They will be in minus. But government's role should be to include more international trains, as it was done in some EU member states, what you mentioned. They established some international passenger platform just to increase attractiveness of the passenger transport, because now in the Western Balkan, we are still not on, let's say, 60% of the passenger flow compared to the 2019. We are talking about it every day, but still there is no concrete action. So my proposal is that the government should include all international trains under the PSO contract, as it was done, for instance, in Slovenia. Croatia also did not do it, and we are struggling to establish one pilot project between Ljubljana and Belgrade. Impossible, because Croat doesn't want to do it. Actually, they will do it, but with subsidies from the government. So it is also chicken and egg, but the crucial thing is the role of the government, and I don't want to go to the political dimension, but definitely without support of the decision makers, especially passengers transport cannot survive. Freight is more commercial category, and we talk about the market, opening rules, etc., etc. Regarding the passenger, really the government has to change the policy on the Western Balkans.
Thank you, Anna, about this question. Maybe it is two issues on this question. The first one is that in Macedonian case, we didn't have a liberalization of transport. There is a first problem. And I'm sure that in next period, we will solve that problem. And the reason why I stand up is to explain you this part, which Anna mentioned. This part, it is Bitola, is a city here and connecting with Greek border is 18, I think 18 kilometers length of railway. It was finished a few years ago, but it didn't start yet to be used. Anna, this month or next month in October, we organized to start the work, to start a train for that part, but not towards Greece, because this problem here is connection or coordination with Greece in this moment. And it will be from Bitola to Jabeni. It is a working zone. They are very close to Bitola, and this line will be used. But what is very important, these rails here towards Greece is very important because it is a bypassing route. If we have some problem from Veles towards Greece, problem, some stops, some problem with bridges there. This is bypassing route to connecting Aegean ports, Thessalonica and Athens with Central Europe. That's a reason why this part is very important to connect, to have alternative route. If we have some problem, alternative route to connect Aegean ports with Central Europe. So the first part is transport company, and second part of your question was this about communication with Greek infrastructure company, which I think that in next period we make a big efforts to communicate with them and to solve that problem, because the name of this part is 10D. It is a part of 10 corridor 10. So thank you, Anna, about the question.
But there is, Adrian, there is a question.
Thank you. Nemanja Nenadić from Transparency International Serbia, and I'm not anyhow expert for railroads, aside from loving this kind of transportation, and I also tested this greenest part between Belgrade and Novi Sad recently, so it functions very well. Anyhow, the main concern of our organization is when any railroad or highway is built, is the way how those works are procured. And what we are facing with in my country is quite frequently that we don't really have open tender procedure, but direct negotiation, mostly with companies from China. And I just wonder whether anyone of panelists or anyone else who can respond to that did you actually have opportunity offer, let's say, from Chinese part to have their financing from some railroad projects, and what would be comparison in overall prices of that kind of projects with with Chinese banks and Chinese companies versus projects as colleague from Macedonia mentioned before, where you have, if I understood correctly, European companies and financing from World Bank and European funds. Thanks.
I can say what happened in Montenegro. In Montenegro, we have all open tender procedure. Almost every part of railway reconstructed from EU funds and the European investment company. We have no any work with Chinese banks or anything. Output, yes, but railway infrastructure. I'm here as the CEO of railway infrastructure of Montenegro?
Thank you. Thank you about question. And maybe the answer is same in Macedonian circumstances, because we as a railway company, infrastructure company, we didn't have any experience with offering China's financement and China's offers, because all investments during now it's from EU, as you mentioned. Lead IFI for first two phases is EBRD, which our experience is at the highest level. For third phase, that challenging phase, which have 24 kilometers, 24 tunnels and 51 bridges, lead IFI is European Investment Bank, and we expect that our cooperation will be the same at the highest level. We have a very big support from them. It means that that we play by their procurement rules, so everything is absolutely not just transparent, but following all their rules, and no objection, taking a no objection from their sides. So that's the answer from Macedonian side. Thank you.
Adrian.
Just 2 points. I love your continental Bosphorus in Europe. It's fantastic. It's a very tweetable phrase. Mr. Savov, you mentioned quoting a lot of political declarations. So my question would be, at the technical level or managerial level, is there a coordinated effort to promote Corridor 8? This is my questions.
At the technical level, as my colleague said, there are regular meetings between the infrastructure managers to monthly meetings between the infrastructure managers to coordinate the technical works. We also had meetings between, we have prepared a table with the state of play in every country on Corridor 8, Albania, Macedonia, and Bulgaria, and we have presented it to the European Commission during the negotiations which are undergoing between Bulgaria and EC about the state for our TEN-T network. And at political level, there was another initiative to prepare a common letter between the three ministers. And there is, I don't know why, a small delay in its preparation and presentation to the European Commission. But I think this is a good idea to present the common will of the three ministries to the European Commissioner and help in deciding to put this corridor in the European transport corridors, which are priority for the Western Balkans.
Additionally, just to mention that next week at 5th and 6th of October, we will have a mutual meeting in Sofia.
Complement of my question with your permission, moderator.
Of course.
It's all great. I mean, this coordination between technical and managerial side. However, to be part of the core, and I mean, you're the specialist, I'm not. The dossier for the node or for the link needs to be mature, right? So, I mean, how this monthly coordination meeting that you're having are helping, for example, well, let's take the only country with black and white, with red and black, you know, to prepare mature its dossiers. I mean, technically, what does it mean? How it helps, for example, Albania to go into green or orange?
Then probably you can answer, especially for this question, but I will try.
Yeah.
At Macedonian side, we have that pipeline projects at national level. That's the first. Second thing is the whole project to be at maturing age, at maturing status. And third thing is maybe in our case, we have some problems because not the design, but additional documentation for many projects was out of date. Because as you know, many of that, big part of that documentation with a few years validity. Thank you. So after that, we have a problem with that issue, and we try to find some way to solve that problem, because you didn't need just the money for preparing a new documentation. The bigger problem is you need the time, and the time in this moment is an expensivest thing that we have, and we find some solution to avoid that problems. And maturing of documentation, my opinion is biggest issue for this question.
On top of that, but okay. Ask.
Yes, my name is Dusan Reljic, and I'm from the German Institute for International Affairs and Security. The only connection that I have to railways is that all of my grandparents were working at the railways. So I have a huge respect for this branch. However, listening to your presentations here, I found it hard to believe that we are actually talking about reality. Because I heard from you that you need 50,000 euros per kilometer to maintain the railway. On the other hand, we have population decline in the whole region. We have not seen an increase in industrial production. Trade is not in the region, trade goes to the north. So, Mr. Sauer, perhaps you can help me understand who is going to travel on this railway from Durrës to the Black Coast? The masses of Albanian and Bulgarian tourists visiting each other? I have a problem in simply believing your narrative.
It's not only for passenger, it's for freight, and we don't have a line, so all these traffic forecasts without a line are difficult to prepare and to realize. But a region without a railway link is in Europe is different to comprehend. That's why first we have to construct the line, and then gradually the traffic will be there. It won't be financially viable at the first, so it will be economically viable because it will serve for the cooperation of the people of Western Macedonia and the European Union. On purely market value, I don't think that it will meet the requirements and the ratios.
A few words, if I may. A few words. This corridor 8 is not connection just between Durrës and Varna and Burgas. It's connection, first of all, from Italy, from Bari. But not just from Bari, from whole Italy and Central Europe too, from whole Mediterranean region, connecting with Black Sea region. That's a reason why my opinion is that, as I mentioned, that with this corridor 8, we construct a continental Bosphorus in Europe. All of us, we know importance of Bosphorus, geostrategic importance of Bosphorus, and that is just connection between these two regions. That's, I'm sure, that this will be very helpful and useful for whole countries at geostrategic level. But if we talk about kitchen egg tail, then what need to be created first? Railway or improving the economy, improving the trade, and after that to construct the rails. So maybe we have different approaches, but I'm sure that this corridor 8 will be very helpful, not just for this region, but for whole this part of Europe. Thank you.
Any other questions? Maybe just to add on top of your answer, Harry, to your question, I completely agree with you that you have concern regarding the sustainability of these investments from Adriatic Sea towards Black Sea. But look, the last investment in Serbia. I was against the Belgrade-Novi Sad personally. I mean, I was against because I still consider that 200 kilometers is not enough, is more than sufficient for Serbia. 120 is normal because of the maintenance cost, which is the triple compared to the standard infrastructure. Now Serbia should provide triple amount for this high-speed line. But however, I was really surprised that people who completely lost the trust in rail back in 1 month, and now currently this distance of 80 kilometers has 40% of the passenger flow of total. Of course, it is not a significant amount because the total amount is still slow, but how to say, when you offer some good product, people relatively back fast. So I also consider that this future investment, if they succeeded to carry out, also will be attract for some business flow. So it doesn't mean that I'm right, but as I'm railway man, I always try to be optimist. So any other questions or remarks from the audience? Adrian, please.
I guess I'm abusing a bit, but bear with me, you know. After all, we have worked so much. I just asked a couple of colleagues here from think tanks and NGOs if they have been before in front of railway managers, and they said no. So I think it's quite special as an occasion. So I'm profiting from this opportunity to ask you, madam and gentlemen, have you ever thought of how to cooperate with think tanks and civil society, but not in the purest, let's say, sense of we are building a railway and doing an SCIA, an environmental and social impact assessment, but consulting well before, you know, you plan, you identify a rail line or you have an idea. I mean, can we help you? And if yes, how? Okay, I guess.
Absolutely, directly, absolutely. With creation of comprehensive strategy of all levels. And I'm sure that your Macedonian colleagues will be a part of our creating a new strategy, because at the paper we have some strategy, but my wish and my methodology is to create a comprehensive strategy with connecting or including all stakeholders. And for this issue, stakeholders is whole country, everybody. So
basically, Mr. Logvenets, sorry to interrupt. You are saying that when you will draft your next comprehensive strategy, you'll put in the terms of reference, taking into account what my friend Frank Huntner said, that the consultant who will prepare the strategy, they're all businessmen, it's obliged to work together and to pay for it representatives from civil society, yes?
Absolutely.
Anna, you know that it is. It is registered, by the way.
It is recorded.
And as I'm not an infrastructure manager, but I'm dealing exactly with the transport policy and with these strategies, it's a requirement when we are preparing such a document to have a steering committee with the inclusion of all interested organizations and society. So every project and every strategy is consulted along its preparation till its completion with the civil society. So it's, in our case, it is observed.
Okay, if there is no and other questions from the audience, I would try to make sum up with speakers. Actually, today we raised a lot of issues, but as a main concern, even before maintenance, I would say the lack of the human resource as a cancer of the rail now. And I say that we should push in further steps in establishing of the regional center for education. It is still on a level of idea, but deeper assessment, and we already included some EU relevant institution and organization like Shift to Rail, who are really will to join us in this process. I mean, it will be a long process. It will be not over the night, but if we achieve the next 4 or 5 years, it will be a really great success. Another issue what we raised, the maintenance, and I will not repeat, we know what should be done. Actually, if governments want to have the rail, they should provide the budget, not just for the salary and for the investments. The maintenance, this budget line should be on sufficient level. Now I will give you floor for the last minute intervention. If you consider something as what we didn't mention, I can ask you, Harry, do not worry, I have a long list. So yes, actually one is cooperation with IFIs, and I consider that Mr. Nenadic was not satisfied with the answer because you didn't have experience with the Chinese or Russian or any kind of the bilateral agreement. But as I am from Serbia, I was in touch with this kind of agreements that completely feel actually that these investments are always overpriced. I would not say double or triple, but definitely overpriced. But also, I have to say that I understand why governments do it, because negotiation is easier. So the carrot is not so wide, the stick is not long. And also during these bilateral agreements, they have got 50 or 40% for the domestic enterprises, what is not guaranteed under the IFI's contract. So it is not a new issue. We raised it a few times in the last 10 years. And even with the colleagues from IFI, I insisted, let's try to refine or revise your rules that domestic enterprise can qualify in the first round, because no one of domestic enterprises can provide 5 references, 5 bridges or 2 tunnels in the last 2 years. So they are surviving as a second hand and work for the 50%. From this perspective, I would say I'm not advocate of the governments, but they are deciding because they will provide some job for the domestic enterprises. However, really this process should be revised and but from both sides, from the IFIs as well as from the governments, to avoid a non-transparent process, but also to provide fair competition under the regular tender procedure. So for the maybe for the last minute, how you assess cooperation with IFIs, Harry? Currently with EBRD, actually huge project.
As I mentioned before, first of all, I agree with you that any revised it will be very useful for both sides. But I want to mention again that our Macedonian experience to deal with European IFIs is at the highest level with EBRD and their local office in Skopje. It's the help from their sides was very big, huge help from their sides, and I'm sure that help and that the European Investment Bank, the work with them will be at the same level. Additional, I mentioned more than 50% of whole amount for third phase was granted by some institution from EU, IPA funds and WBIF. So that's a reason why I'm absolutely sure that dealing with other, what means other, we know that with other investment or finance institutions, will be not better and not useful for our countries. This is my personal experience, and I want to share it with you.
Mr. Savo, do you have any final words?
About IFIs, I can say that we had a very good experience with them in our in the years before the accession, and we had a lot of projects which we developed together with the EIB, which was together with the money from the pre-accession funds. We used funds from EIB. After the accession, we use IFIs mostly for consultancy about preparation of projects, about preparation of strategies. We work together with the World Bank and all the other banks in that, not for preparation, not for execution of projects and directly financing infrastructure projects. I didn't speak about our Chinese experience because we had a lot of meetings with Chinese companies, but we hadn't reached the level when they had a concrete proposal with concrete parameters which we can compare with the conditions which we finance infrastructure projects with. And as a final sentence, I would also like to repeat that the clear priorities and their execution in time is the most important, in my opinion, as a national policy.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Actually, it should be third conclusion, that the prioritization and the cost efficiency managing of the project. Marina, do you have something not related to the IFIs? Any final message?
Okay, I just want to thank you because we have an opportunity to speak, because infrastructure manager is somebody who can finish their words with some complaint almost. But I think so that we are really somebody who can build the core of economy of our countries and our region and Europe.
Thank you. So once more, lack of human resources, maintenance, prioritization, I would say sustainability in terms of regional cooperation and continuity of the policy, because very often we have case that after the election, new minister came and changed everything. So it should not be practice. Thank you for this, for your great contribution. Thank you for the contribution by the audience, and we are closing this panel.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel. The topic we're going to cover today here is planning for and funding resilient infrastructure. Allow me in 2 sentences to introduce myself. I am a journalist. I've done nothing else in my life but TV journalism. And when the organizer of this event asked me to moderate this panel, my first question to him was, who are the members of the panel? And after he briefly briefed me on them, I said, I am more than honored to moderate this panel, but there is a problem. There are 3 top Balkan politicians and a European banker. Now, who should start this panel? Who should be the first, a politician or a banker? So, Mr. Rivellini, what do you think?
I'm thinking about leaving now, but
I would have done the same.
But no, I would not dare to comment. I would just like to thank you very much for introducing the panel and thanking Ardian and the various colleagues of the institute that have put together yet another successful event. I was commenting earlier, this event is becoming one of the key moments to discuss, particularly connectivity in this region. There are plenty of other opportunities, but here I've always found that there is a true and genuine intention to discuss in depth the matter of connectivity rather than remaining only at the political level, with all the due respect to the politicians that are sharing the panel together with me.
Thank you. I just wanted to introduce the members of the panel. We've got here Ms. Jovana Marovic, who is the Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Montenegro. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you in Durrës, in this rainy Durrës. Sorry. No, she's from Montenegro. We've got probably you are confused because Mr. Bojan Maricic is via Skype with us. So, Mr. Maricic, thank you very much indeed for finding time to join this panel. It's a privilege to have you among us.
It's my pleasure and privilege.
Thank you. And I'm sure all the Albanians and non-Albanians know that on my left-hand side is Mr. Ilir Beqa, a career politician, and now he is in charge of the State Agency for Strategic Planning and Aid Cooperation. Mr. Beqa, thank you for finding time. So as I said to the organizer of this panel, it will be a challenge regarding time management. But let us rush and make sure that we know what we are talking about. So, Ms. Marovic, if you can say a few words, basically regarding the current situation with the to the update of national single project pipeline regarding these large infrastructure programs. Sorry.
Thank you very much. As you said at the beginning, there are 3 politicians today here, but I have to say that I don't feel as a politician because I was in the civil society for 10 years and I'm just 1 year into politics. So basically, it's really a pleasure to be again at the forums which are organized by the civil society, and it's really good to have this topic today because, as you said, connectivity and financing of the project from the EU funds is something which is of the most importance for the Western Balkans. As for Montenegro, it is really strategic goal to have these projects financed from the European Investment Plan and also within the Western Balkans Fund from the EU funds and in accordance with the EU standards. As you said, this is in line with 2 priorities for the Western Balkans. The first one is to develop the infrastructure in accordance with the EU standards, which means the high quality of standards and high quality of infrastructure. And the second one is that the EU in that sense, is making another commitment to the Western Balkans, and this is even more important in the light of the new events in Europe, and especially when it comes to the war in Ukraine. Montenegro has this single pipeline, project pipeline from 2015. It was adopted by National Investment Committee. And from that date, we are updating the strategy and the plan at least once in 2 years, but more and usually more often, because we are really focused on good planning and priorities for infrastructure. The last update was in December last year, so that means in December 2021. In order to have this good link within the line ministries, which are in the National Investment Committee, we have the technical secretariat, which is in the Ministry of European Affairs. I'm Minister of European Affairs, but we have national coordinator for IPA funds, and he is regularly coordinating activities with the line ministries in order to have the list of priorities for each year, and in order to provide technical support and assistance to the ministries, in order to have database with needs from the ministries, but also to plan good all the activities of the line ministries and in accordance with the national strategy for infrastructure in accordance with the strategic pipeline project. The last update was, as I said, 9 months ago, and now we have 154 projects in this strategy, and they are ranging from environment, then transport, energy.
Which are the most advanced ones?
We are mostly focused on energy and transport, as the rest of the Western Balkans, and the total value of the project is 6.3 billion euro. That's the plan. And now there are 4 ongoing projects which are really important and which are to some extent funded from the EU funds and from the European Investment Plan. Let's say that there, as I said, there are also projects within the environment sector and also digitalization, but the most important ones are within the energy sector and transport.
Has this priorities, Ms. Marovic, changed following the Russian aggression into the Ukraine?
Well, for the Western Balkans, the infrastructure is the hot topic, for some time. And then you are more focused to improve the rule of law in order to have better negotiating capacity with the investors. And the second line is, of course, that you are building your capacity in order to receive more EU grants. For Montenegro, there is one controversial project, which is the highway project financed from Chinese company, which was the example for Malayan influence, possible Malayan influence in the Western Balkans. And that's why Montenegro is now really focused to receive funds from the European Investment Plan to secure the second section of the highway project because of, as I said, potential Malayan influences from the third parties. When it comes to Russia, Russia is and was one of the biggest investors in Montenegro. Montenegro is fully aligned with the common foreign and security policy of the European Union, and that's something which is influencing investments in the country, but also is also influencing tourism in the country, because Montenegro is really highly dependent on tourism. But we are clearly on the European path, and we clearly want to receive the EU funds for. So in that sense, the agenda is changing, but it really depends on, as I said, building the rule of law and providing capacity to receive and to prepare, first of all, project application, and then to receive the EU funds. And since we are at the forum, which is organized by civil society, I think that the most important part and the role of civil society in this infrastructure agenda, the first one is suggesting priorities to the line ministries. The second one is providing kind of expertise for the database for experts in the line ministries. And the third one, of course, is helping monitoring of the projects. I think that the one of the best analysis this highway project was also produced by the civil society, and these gaps with Chinese influence or Chinese finances were also analyzed by the civil society. So I really see the importance of the role of the civil society, even in such huge projects where they usually don't have expertise, but they have expertise in some of the areas, for example, environment and also digitalization and the rest. Just to focus briefly on projects which are ongoing, the one is, of course, Balkan Corridor energy project, which is one with Bosnia and Herzegovina, and there are two railway projects which are connecting Montenegro with Albania and Serbia.
True. Good. Just one final question about this highway, which is so controversial, and you mentioned. What sort of financial relations do you have with the European Union? Because there was a lot of controversy regarding the feasibility study and everything. Now, is there any way out regarding the support of the European Union on this very important project?
Just during the last year, I think exactly a year ago, the then Deputy Prime Minister and now the Prime Minister said in the European Parliament that we want another loan from the European Union just to replace Chinese one, and then the European Union refused to provide that loan. And that in the sense of the new events and developments at the global level, I think that wasn't a smart decision. And then we found the solution for the highway project, and now everything is in a way controlled by the government. But we have intention and goal to secure the funds from the European Investment Plan. And we received 2 grants but for the technical assistance. But for construction, we are preparing applications. So we really want to receive funds from the European Investment Plan. We still don't have that kind of connection with the European Union, but hoping for the one.
And the new elections, if they happen, will they help at all?
I don't know. It's hard to predict.
Exactly. In the Balkans, it's always hard. Thank you very much, Ms. Marovic. And now I would like to invite Mr. Marički, about the Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia. As we are in the context, Mr. Marički, about the geopolitics, my question to you would be, how this war between Russia and Ukraine has impacted your infrastructure planning, please?
Thank you, Mr. Egro, dear Jovana, dear Ilir, dear Matteo. It is really a pleasure for me that I can talk to you this afternoon, because rainy Durrës is always better than rainy Brussels, but I was supposed to be in rainy Brussels these days. I will turn to your question, of course, and I had a speech planned as an introduction, but I'll turn to the question directly. Of course, that the war in Ukraine changed everything. It influenced a lot. Of course, it was our choice, our moral choice and moral obligation, because we think it's the right thing to do, not only because we are youngest NATO ally and a candidate country for the EU, to side with Ukraine and to support the sanctions. Those sanctions, of course, brought consequences for all the countries in Europe. We are sticking still to our focus and to our priority on the connectivity agenda as one of the highest priorities, particularly completing the big corridors, particularly Corridor 8. This is now our priority, and also one branch of Corridor 10 to Pristina. But it affected in terms of public financing, because the public financing is now strictly, or let's say predominantly, not strictly, but predominantly focused on energy and providing all the necessary supplies for the energy crisis and for the electricity crisis. But I think that in this regard, it is of crucial importance that we act together with the European Union. I asked the Czech presidency on behalf of North Macedonia, but it also fits for the others, to get us involved in the discussions at ministerial level and the ministerial meetings for energy. It started in September. We were only briefed what happened to those meetings after they finished, but I hope that we will get an invitation that our ministers that are competent for energy will be present at the next meeting, ministerial meeting for energy that will take place in October. I think that this is really important because we should, as Western Balkan countries who have fully aligned with the EU package of sanctions, that also we are at least present as observers and sharing our concerns and our issues together with the EU member states. It is of crucial importance that EU demonstrates solidarity with Western Balkan countries, just as the Western Balkan countries have demonstrated solidarity with the European Union. So I think that the priority, energy and electricity and food supply, of course, become highest priority now this winter, and this is how directly the plans for let's say the focus on infrastructure might change, because the public financing is going to there. But however, regardless of this, I think that finishing the corridors, we also got a big project, and now our director of the railway company is there in Tirana, and I'm glad to say that we are opening this big project of railway towards Bulgaria, which means finishing Corridor 8. And I believe that also investing in the other parts of the country, particularly the highway to Ohrid as our main tourist destination and a key center for tourism and development, together with the infrastructure in specific municipalities, which also would change the picture in general, is something that will remain our priority, regardless of all the concerns and all the challenges we have with the energy crisis.
You mentioned, Mr. Marichki, the fact that you had a conversation with the representative of the Czech Republic, which is chairing the European Union, which has the presidency of the European Union. But how well do you think your country and the other Western Balkan countries are coordinating with the EU structures regarding precisely the topic that we are discussing, which is planning for and funding resilient infrastructure?
Well, of course, it is a big question. I am at the same time a national IPA coordinator, and of course we are working very closely with the structures of the EU in overcoming the issues that we have, that all of our countries have, but particularly for North Macedonia, that we have with implementing these projects. The projects are complex. Very often it takes years for them to start. A lot of feasibility studies, a lot of preparations, and procurement procedures that are very often for some technical reason brought to the beginning. And I think we should do our best to avoid decommitments, because this is the greatest challenge. I think that if we show more flexibility and more activity on both sides, on the side of the European Union and on the sides of our national coordination system for the IPA funds, that will demonstrate, that will show that we can be even ready to use some of the structural funds before membership, if that is going to be allowed. But I think that the first priority should be avoiding decommitment. We are doing our best. Of course, we are facing decommitments just as all the others, but I think that the IPA 3 framework gives a better chance to avoid decommitments and to support only mature projects, which and in the programming we are already having. We have completed the programming for 21st, and now working on 22nd, and I think that this is a good lesson learned to endorse only mature projects that can be done and that are doable, and by that to avoid any possibility of decommitments.
Being a deputy prime minister, I'm sure you are very optimistic, but is it based on true figures?
Well, this is what I want to say. We have, of course, we can always do better, but our job and our task is to make the most of the European funds, because the European funds, particularly IPA, are the face of the European Union in the accession process. The reforms are our necessity. What we've been told by the country reports is also our guidance in the reform process. But if the IPA funds are actually the real face of the European Union and something that can citizens tangibly see in their daily life that the EU is doing for them. This is why I think we can do a lot better. And this is why the third IPA framework is a chance both for our governments, for our municipalities as well, but for, also for the European Union to show to the people that EU can deliver funds that can be implemented in a fast and effective way to their benefit. But I think if we better coordinate also at regional level, so if we can make, for example, joint initiatives like this one for presence at the energy ministerial meetings, or other initiatives, I think if we work more together, all of the ministers for European integration and IPA coordinators, we can even do more. And I think this is our task, this is our job, and I would use this opportunity to call my colleagues in Skopje to organize an event that will start this coordination and that will be to the benefit of our citizens and of better use of the funds for infrastructure.
Absolutely. I wanted to get your opinion, Mr. Maricki, and then I'll pass on to Ms. Marovic with the same question. Regarding the Berlin process, there are a lot of discussions in this part of the world about its future. Do you feel optimistic that with a rapid involvement of Germany, this Berlin process will restart, and then you will have, we will have better opportunities to cooperate among ourselves, and then have another place to ask for?
Well, very good question. I used to be also for 3 years Sherpa in the Prime Minister's office for Berlin process. So I have followed the progress very well since the Trieste summit in 2017. Berlin process is an excellent idea, and we gladly participate in that. We also gladly participate in the Open Balkan initiative, and we think it also has its own spirit of regional cooperation. I think that all the initiatives need to deliver for the citizens. This is the main purpose of these initiatives. Our purpose is that the spirit of cooperation dominates in the region. If we can reach that point when the spirit of cooperation will dominate in the Berlin process, endorsed by Berlin, because I think that the let's say a bit of slowing down of this process in the past years was because of course of the bilateral issues that we have in the region, but also because of the that maybe we got a less attention by the EU member states because of the transfer in Germany. But we are glad that we can see that the Chancellor Scholz is bringing back the attention to this initiative. We can have, if we have the attention and support by the powerful EU member states and by all the, let's say, the chambers of commerce and all those actors that can actually help to remove the barriers for trade and for mobility, then the process has its future. But we need to deliver for the people quick wins and quick results. You know, the roaming, everybody knows about the roaming, and that we roam like at home now within the Berlin process. If we can make these kind of concrete steps through the Berlin process or through the Open Balkan, we would show to the people that these initiatives make sense and that these initiatives are bringing something positive.
Thank you. Ms. Marovic, what is your take on it? We're not talking about Open Balkans, as it is highly controversial in at least 3 countries of this part of the world.
I'm completely fine also commenting Open Balkans. I think that I was involved in the Berlin process from the very beginning, actually from the Vienna summit, and I think that the Berlin process is good as umbrella initiative, channeling all the regional initiatives. But as Bojan already said, I think that we are still missing concrete benefits from the Berlin process. And now with this confrontation between common regional market and the open Balkans, I think that it's good to have this continuation of the Berlin process. But what is still not clear is whether this common regional market is stick or carrot for the Western Balkans, and whether this whole process is leading us towards the European Union. That's the thing which is still uncertain. I think that the whole idea of the common regional market started in Trieste 2017, and then it was agreed in Sofia 2019. And we are still discussing 4 basic agreements within the common regional market. So if we have intention to integrate the Western Balkans and to have better connectivity agenda and to help citizens, to integrate better, I think that this should be part of the EU conditionality, and that the European perspective should be really clear for the Western Balkans. That's something which is now missing from the Berlin process. So I'm happy with the Berlin process and with the new summit, which we'll discuss in November, merging of the open Balkans and the common regional market. This is something which is helpful for the rest of, for 3 countries which are not participating in the open Balkans, because, for example, in Montenegro, there is really huge discussion. One bloc which is strongly against and one bloc which is supporting without any clear arguments for or against of the initiative. We are now preparing analysis in the Ministry of European Affairs just to analyze the initiative from the perspective of the European Union membership. So for us, the most important thing, whether these 2 initiatives are leading us to the EU, and the second thing is to have more concrete benefits for the citizens. The roaming prices is one which is good, but we still need more benefits for the Western Balkans citizens.
Okay, that is obviously the common denominator, being helpful to the people. And let me go now to the only Albanian panelist here, to Mr. Ilir Beqa. And my question to you, Mr. Beqa, is which are, according to your experience, the most difficult task you are facing now precisely regarding the topic that we are discussing?
First, we should commonly understand that since 2-3 years lives in an unsettled context.
Absolutely.
Which has made unpredictability after unpredictability, decision to be taken relatively under pressure, and also for a certain reason, almost within Europe at least, all sides of politics has behaved with a lot of presence of the state in different issues, which doesn't look like the normal market economy, but under certain pressure on the short-term political agenda, government has flowed a lot of money in one way, which has created 2 issues, in my opinion. First, reduce the fiscal space to continue boosting huge infrastructure investment we need in the region, transport, digital. On the other side, trying to become more paternalist and raising expectation from the citizens that everything should be resolved by the politics.
Exactly.
So this is how I see the time being.
What is the trend according to your experience?
If we come to something more concrete, let's consider the experience of the government of Albania. And I want to come back to the previous panel, which was just following the last part, when it was concluded saying that a new minister come and might change everything. I know that politicians are not very much appreciated those times, but at least in Albania,
since 30 years, I haven't seen any minister which has been against Corridor 8. Different sides of politics. But if you have restricted fiscal space with local resources, and if under IPA, they say that you should move forward in WBIF, and if you go to WBIF, and for Corridor 8, they say that it is not in TEN-T corridor, it is a kind of closed circle, and what any minister has to do. Politicians are also political beasts. They are accountable, they have to deliver.
Absolutely.
If there is nothing in the desk, or there is almost promises but difficulties to deliver, for sure they might come in the trap to invent. This is what we should do. Avoid being spontaneous, avoid inventing, sticking on and this is what I want to share. I know that this winter will be difficult on energy for us as for whole Europe. If somebody sees daily the German newspapers, there is not too much discussion about Berlin process, so there are two issues: energy prices and weapon to Ukraine. So this is the context where we are, but beside this, since we are entering in an era where more unpredictability will face, and when it looks that there are winds of deglobalization, we should continue to stick on
the project,
on the integration agenda,
yeah, definitely,
on the regional agenda, because at the end, this is, in my opinion, personal opinion, the difference between a politician and a statesmanship.
Good. I don't know, Mr. Mariti, based on what Mr. Becia was saying about earlier, what is your view on it?
What in particular, on which point?
Regarding the projects, the fact that they should be there and they should be protected and promoted by all the persons who follow, in order to have a serious basis from which to start as an individual country and then as a region as such.
I think it's a must, because this is why exactly the cycles are in 7 years, and they exceed the mandate or term of any government. I think this is partially a problem in our case, because, for example, we have several infrastructural but also other projects that we had in the past period. And after the local elections last year in North Macedonia in November, many municipalities have changed their leadership, their mayors.
Exactly.
And some of these projects are under threat, under serious threat. I mean, there are few examples. For example, one in central part of the country, there is one rural municipality that was about to get a factory for management of the of meat industry waste, and one management of waste in the eastern part of the country for the whole region of that part of the country, and they're blocked now. There are also problems with the water waste treatment in Skopje. But I think that this is why I say when we speak about consensus, political consensus of all the political parties over the European integration and its importance, this is included. The projects are included in that consensus. There is no consensus if the project with European funds stop or are impeded or hindered if a government or if a mayor changes. So this is part, in my opinion, of that consensus, and we must protect and at any cost implement these projects, because those projects are one of our greatest chances for development and for for showing that the European Union really matters and that this process makes sense.
Thank you. Mr. Rivellini, I just wanted your perspective on exactly what we are discussing. Serious projects promoted by governments, and then the take that the European Investment Bank takes on them.
Thank you, and it is super interesting to really listen, Boy and Jovan and colleagues, really about their enthusiasm about keeping up with this ambition of joining the European membership as fast as possible, and also openly criticizing when things are not as effective as they should be, and bringing the perspective of an investment banker, of a European investment banker. And I would like to say that for us it's important to continue engaging and promoting a good planning, a good use of resources. We're bringing, money as bankers.
Mm-hmm.
And as bankers, we are looking at the projects that are very well prepared. We're looking at the ecosystem, the regulatory framework, the capacity of the promoter, the capacity of the, let's say, given the macroeconomic.
Sorry,
matrix.
the project you are talking about is offered to you by the government, or you yourselves go and focus on certain projects?
Well,
or both?
It really depends on a case by case. But what I wanted to say is really it's important for us to keep seeing very well prepared projects that are implemented very, very well in this country. I've heard a lot of criticism so far about certain processes. Look, as a European Investment Bank, we're coming from like more than 60 years of experience in seeing things that have not worked well elsewhere in Europe. I mean, I can give you numbers of how many times the debt, the senior debt offered to the Euro tunnel has been restructured. I can tell you that in my home country, in Italy, it has taken more than 30 years to build a piece of motorway from south of Naples to Reggio Calabria. This is to say that this experience helps us in being sometimes even more demanding in this region. And in this region, I understand and appreciate the criticism, but we also need to see that, look at Bosnia, Corridor 5C, together. I mean, it has been taking forward the project in a very, very difficult terrain, in a very successful manner, and possibly in the coming years will be finished. And I can mention other infrastructures that have happened. I just want to bring a sort of a positive sense about the work that has been done so far. And in this, on this.
Sorry, Mr. Rivellini, before you continue with it, I just wanted to ask Mr. Beccia, concretely speaking, what do you want from Mr. Rivellini as a banker, from him and the institutions as such that invest or support financially?
I may ask something which is unacceptable for a banker, but let's be expressive. First, please, within the feasibility, try to introduce in a measurable way even the resilience. Most probably, the normal flows of a certain corridor does not justify a certain level of investment. I don't know, a speed or a tunnel with 2 tubes, but as we are facing sometimes catastrophe from nature, or sometimes, let's say, changes due to the geopolitics, some redundancy should be part of the feasibility study, as well as sometimes some compromises due to environment. And thirdly, I don't know how have you are you considering to mitigate the current projects which are under implementation for financed by you, but other financial institutions as well, in a context was the price of raw materials in construction have been increased by times. Sometimes the project continues and you have to stop. And by stopping civil works close to winter, you even may lose. But on the other side, you should consider again a new amount of financing, which has to go again to the board, and so and so.
Your floor.
No, perhaps let me take this opportunity to bring on the table also another element of novelty, which is called EIB Global. Now, you know, the European Investment Bank has established a branch that operates outside Europe and is called EIB Global, and that's the new brand of our branch. That brings together with it a number of things. Number one, more resources, so more capital to be deployed for riskier projects, more technical assistance to be deployed. Tomorrow, we're signing with the municipality of Tirana a 2 million technical assistance for social housing. It brings more vicinity, more proximity. Investment banking is a business of proximity. We have opened an office in Tirana, we have opened in Skopje, we are recruiting more people in the region. And it brings more focus. We are having a team that I have the honor to lead that is devoted exclusively to the enlargement geography and countries. Now, as far as resilience is concerned, for us, resilience is a very clear thing. I can elaborate further, but in practice, it means we do not want to finance any cathedral in the desert. We do not want to finance stranded assets, because that is going to be a cost and a cost overrun for our shareholders, which are the member states, and then eventually they will not give us additional capital to invest more. So this is to say that we're fine in looking at the, let's say, increased cost of raw materials, and we've done it in many cases. We've done it even in the bypass of theory. Mm-hmm. So we have noticed that you know, the initial, but the point is that if there is no demand for 2 tubes in a mountains to be built, we should build 1 tube, because we're second to none in terms of environmental protection, and we don't want to make any compromise.
But to make it clear for the audience as well, who makes the final decision? In this example that you mentioned with 2 tubes, when you want to go through a mountain, who makes the final decision? Is it the government, and then the government asks for your support, or is it you that will have the final say?
We have, Jovana will excuse me if I bring Montenegrin case. We had started discussing with the government in Podgorica in 2008 about the possibility of financing various innovative and sometimes bizarre ways, the most expensive section of Barbogliare. We always said that this is not the way to do it, and because we have engineers, economists that are looking into the feasibility studies that were proposed by the government, and we said this was not the way to go ahead. And then eventually the government of Montenegro has taken a different views. And obviously, everyone then is responsible towards his own taxpayers. But we remain a bank. I mean, the banks.
Yes, it's always a bank.
We cannot deal differently with each and any given project.
Ms. Maravich?
Well, I'm completely fine, because it's not my government that agrees on the highway.
I don't know whether the members of the panel would like to say something, or otherwise I would open up the panel towards the guests that are here who may pose questions to you. Mr. Maritsky, is there anything that you would like to underline? No?
Yeah, I would just say what I didn't say about the effects of the war in Ukraine. I think that it generally, all the projects were affected also by the raise of the prices. And this is something that that we need to bear in mind, because some of the supplies and some of the products, particularly in the construction industry, have elevated in prices tremendously.
Thank you. So the floor is open. Yes, please. If you can introduce yourself and then.
Yes, I'll do it again. I did it already in the first session, but perhaps people
Sorry, I
will.
was not
No,
here.
people will like hearing it for the second time. Thank you. And special greetings to Bojan in Skopje. Deputy Prime Minister said something that I'm going to quote in the future. He said that IPA is the face of the European Union. And together with my Italian colleague Matteo Bonomi from the Italian Institute for International Affairs, I did a little research about IPA monies and about the Reconstruction Fund and about the Social and Cohesion Fund. And the findings of this analysis you can see now on the wall behind you. First of all, the European Parliament, and we looked into their figures as well, determined that IPA 3 is in purchasing power less than IPA 2. And IPA 2 was less than IPA 1. So I think this helps us sort of get a precise feeling of the readiness, of the political readiness of the European Union to invest in the region. And second thing, if you take together the monies from the Reconstruction Fund with the Cohesion and the Social Fund, you will see that an average citizen of the Western Balkans, of the South European 6, receives per head annually about 500 euros support from the European Union. Whereas in Greece or in other countries, it is 11 times more. You see the figure. And the only conclusion which can be drawn from this is that expectations that through the money coming from the European Union, there will be convergence between the region and the European Union in the near future is simply wrong. What we will experience, especially with the recovery fund monies, is divergence. And this divergence, in the short run, has a direct political implication. And this is that especially young people recognize that their future is not going to be materially more beneficial for them. This can lead either to outward migration, and we have calculated, Matteo Bonomi and I together, that about 250,000 people left the region just in the year before the pandemic, which is almost every 2 minutes, one citizen of the region receives a residence permit in the EU for longer than 3 months. The other dimension is that people, no matter young or old, look at their political position primarily through the economic situation. And if for the last 30 years, perhaps with the exception of Albania, but in the rest of the region, the material situation has not improved, then for me, this is the explanation for the rise of nationalism, populism, whatever you want. So I think that, Bojan, the face of the European Union, it's a great phrase, and I will be using it in the future quite often and quoting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I believe that was more like a comment.
If you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Natasha Kovacevic, I'm coming from CE Bankwatch.net. So I have to say like two different things to say. One is about IPA 3 framework, which actually states that all future investments should actually go in line with the national single project pipelines, with the midterm budget plans, with the economical investment fund, green agenda. So I believe we can agree that it's quite a lot of programming, a lot of documents. So from aspect of NGO sector, I have to say that it's really hard to follow. So I believe that there should be a kind of website or a platform or something where actually we can see all of those projects and those investments, and especially in a very early stage, so we can actually also have opportunity to comment and then also to continue with monitoring. What is also not quite clear is how IPA 3 programming will integrate do not harm principle in the future. So who will actually monitor this and how this will be going? I have to say that some of the national projects pipelines that are developed in some of the countries have projects which can be controversial just on a first sight, but of course they should be discussed, especially like gas projects, because there are some countries in the region that don't have any installations on a gas. So it's a kind of huge question. Should we really now start working on this in such a country? So I believe there is a lot of space for dialogue on these issues. And that was, let's say, for the one. Another is about banks, because my organization is quite a lot monitoring banks. And I think Mr. Rivellini, actually, might heard, yeah, Rivellini, sorry, might heard about Corridor 5 and actually some job we did there. Some we did, I believe, also great together, like for EIB opting out of fossil fuels. Still, there are some investments like 890 million of euros still. Some of the NGOs like Counterbalance actually calculated it as are still going, especially on intermediating institutions. That would be kind of nice to follow on those. Yeah, the thing is that also work of the bank, I have to be honest also to say this, for us is easier to follow work of the banks, because they are quite, yeah, but some of the, it's not just about, you know, experience in your field of engagement, but it's also because it's slightly less transparent than, you know, and you can find it on one,
as I said
at
the beginning, there are three top politicians here. Do you have a specific questions for them? Because for the bankers, as you said, it's easier.
Yeah, so that's basically, I didn't want to enter more than this, but the thing is, like, you know, how you integrate all of those projects, you know, together.
Mr. Beche?
First, at least in my opinion, IPA, the first aim is a key, is an instrument of pre-accession, is not an investment instrument. And with IPA 3, space for investments, it is with the so-called operational programs, which are available under indirect management and are preparing our country in the near future or in the midterm future for structural funds. Regarding important investments, besides opinions that we might have, the right door is WDIF. That's why we have an NSPP, which usually, like we do with local money budget projects, is prepared by technicians in different line ministries, is part of the state budget, and there are the instruments also to discuss the relevance, the maturity, and also make comments on the priority or not. It follows the same cycle of public investment management that our governments has put in place. Something is good, something is not that good. It is under improvement within different national IPA programs. Usually we benefit from the so-called EU integration facility, which are technical assistance also to facilitate those programs.
Ms. Marovic and then Mr. Rivellini.
Just to comment briefly about the amount of money which we are receiving through IPA, I think that the fact is that we can also discuss that. But the thing is also that even the money which is so far allocated, we are not using all of the money because of lack of capacity. Lots of project applications are refused because of technical criteria. So this is the first priority for our countries. And I think that For Montenegro, which is in the negotiation process for 10 years, is something which is unacceptable. So this should be priority for the Ministry of European Affairs and for the government to prepare all the potential applicants how to properly use and prepare, first of all, prepare application and then the use IPA funds. The second thing about it would be, of course, better to have this website to monitor the whole project, but after just 5 months experience in the government of Montenegro and Ministry of European Affairs, as you said, it's so many strategic planning on many levels, and we have to prepare, 100 pages and plans and let's say more website with all of this information maybe would be useful, but maybe not. I think that we have to focus on how to simplify procedures and not to have another, let's say, channel how to communicate it with the public. So in my opinion, the most important thing is to prepare administration to better use the funds, and that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Mr. Rivellini?
No, just like to thank Natasha for her questions, and this brings me to underline just one thing, that is the way at the IB Global we look into the stakeholder engagement. So for us, it's very important, at least at 3 levels. We want to see non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations being included in the process. We ask our counterparts each and every time, from the period of the due diligence to the period of the implementation of the project, to include in their assessment the various key stakeholders that are affected by the project. We do finance ourselves a number of non-governmental organizations to scrutinize us even more and to have even more capacity to scrutinize us. And we invite a lot of organizations to come to Luxembourg at least once a year to meet with our governance. And then we see like the stakeholder engagement also for our day-to-day life as very important, because, for example, in terms of transparency, we're doing a lot of efforts to be as transparent as possible, because we are committed to a number of conventions that impose on us to be as transparent as possible. Let me just conclude by 2 things. I've asked you to remember EIB Global. That's one thing that I would like everybody to remember. That's the novelty, and EIB Global with a special team for enlargement geography to remember. The second thing to remember, Natasha, is that with EIB Global, there is no more gas. The last investments that we have done on gas transportation infrastructures were the Serbia-Bulgaria interconnector, the Greece-North Macedonia interconnector, and the Trans-Adriatic pipeline in this region. From now onwards, is for someone else, not for us.
And the Deputy Prime Minister of North Macedonia?
Yeah, I was just about to say that it is one of the best projects for the interconnector between Greece and North Macedonia, and we are very grateful for that, because it is, in our opinion, a crucial project in the upcoming period. Speaking about planning, but also about the amounts, I would say about planning, maybe monitoring would help in terms of if the purpose is how to improve the capacities of the institutions, but also how to improve the programming and the management. I think that the triangle of administration, business community, and civil society is very important to this. In the past, because I also was in the civil society until 5 years ago, I was working in a think tank that was regularly doing the reports about IPA monitoring and also general monitoring of the European integration. I think this is at the moment, maybe analytics on the IPA funding is a necessity, but I think it should be specialized with the purpose of how to make, and of course, instruction towards the administration, towards the civil society, and towards the business community, how to approach the funds in a more easier way and how to use them in a more visible way. And when I say administration, I would say that both central and local administrations are equally important, because we are facing a lot of challenges in the municipal project. Of course, I think that there are years in which we use or should use over 100 million euros of IPA. There are years that we have programmed less, like 80 or something like that. But in average, it comes close to 100 million a year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marici. I think we are coming to the end of this of the time, but I just wanted a final thought from all the panelists about the topic. If I, Mr. Marici, if I would ask you, what is something that you would strongly underline precisely regarding the discussion that we had on this topic, which is planning for and the resilience for the projects in the field of infrastructure?
With all the support of European Union, development banks, bilateral agreements among countries that are friends of us, the main job has to be done by us.
Countries.
We are the us which has to deliver.
Thank you. Ms. Marovic.
Well, we almost covered everything. So the focus is, of course, to use better the EU funds, to be better prepared to use it, and hopefully that using of the EU funds will lead us all to the EU soon. That's the main message.
Mr. Marici, your final thought on this topic that we have been discussing for the last hour?
I think it is of utmost priority of both European Union and our countries in the region to have the IPA funds, and particularly the infrastructure projects, as swift as implemented, as swift as possible, as better as possible, as efficient as possible, and as visible as possible. So this should be our guiding thought when we work in these projects, because as I mentioned, and the colleague correctly noted, the IPA funds are the face of the European Union, and the good face. And we think this is the way of how to invest in the development, and how to show that that this process is not only about politics, it's not only about bilateral issues, it's not only about the reforms, but also about infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Rivellini, your final thoughts?
No, just one word, a word of encouragement to Ilir, Jovan, and Bojan to remain engaged in planning well ahead. I know for politicians, time management is a bit of an issue vis-a-vis elections and so on and so forth, but it's really important to keep planning well ahead and having infrastructures that are resilient over time, and in that and along this way, EIB Global will be your partner.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Marovic, Mr. Marici, Mr. Vecchia, and Mr. Rivellini. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your time with us, and thank you to the participants in this panel. Thank you.